welcome to episode 2 of the Sessions podcast with Fix Coffee Brand. Today we're catching up with somebody who lives and breathes high-performance sales and leadership. His name's Kris Westcott. He's been in the game for a while, helping teams grow, sell smarter, lead better. So, Kris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It is one of the like founding things with Fix is like we're all about supporting people who are like the entrepreneurial mindset. Like Anthony and I, this is not our first rodeo. You know, Fix. We did a t-shirt company. You know, just like every other drop shipper does. And so like we did a t-shirt company, and we've done some. You know, he's got a thing where he's like doing these beautiful custom furniture pieces that he builds. And so like the point of these conversations isn't even really all about coffee, but we're gonna start in with coffee. I'm drinking some Midway. I did a double shot of Midway with a little bit of brown sugar. And
I'm ready.
So
I'm ready.
Stay caffeinated. You know what I mean?
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers. I'm hanging with our shadow.
Hey, there you go. All right. So, Kris, if I walked by the coffee shop, saw you sitting there, I was like, "Hey, man, what do you do?" What would you answer? How would you answer
I'd
that?
say I help entrepreneurs scale and exit their businesses. That's what I'd say. Been working with the Scalable
Awesome.
company now, and that's all we do, man.
That's it. Scale and
Exit. I can't tell you how many companies we've worked with, but it's a ton.
Yeah. Well, so the founder, Ryan Dice, only a mild connection. We didn't like hang out as buds or anything, but we did actually go to high school together, graduate the same year, at Clear Lake High School, class of 99,
Right,
represent. So, it's, you gotta do what you gotta do. I remember we just ran in different circles. Like he was with like, the cool kids who had their academic life together, and I was in the punk rock scene.
Dude.
So, no academic life whatsoever.
A little bit of screamo going on.
It was skateboards and punk rock, skateboards and punk rock, baby, all day.
Right on.
So, all right. So, let's talk about like, how'd you get started? Like you're doing sales coaching, you're helping people figure out, first of all, like sales processes. You're helping, like you've helped me out with holes in our sales process we had at the agency. So like, how'd you get started in that? Did you know you wanted to just like help people, or was it like something you stumbled upon, or did you have like a sales role as a teenager and just like become really infatuated with it? How'd you start out?
No, I mean, like I've always been selling. I remember I had a memory the other day. You ever have those memories that like you forget you had? And I had a memory of actually selling. Do you remember back in the 90s? It was a big thing to have like the twine or whatever kind of bracelet that was with the beads. It was like a hemp bracelet. I used to sell those, man. I used to make the hemp bracelets and sell those to all my buddies. And so I've always had like an entrepreneurial flair, but I actually didn't go down that route like career-wise. Like I actually didn't think I would get into sales. Yeah, I was actually I was in accounting for a little bit, and I was actually an executive assistant to a VP. And she had about 1,000 employees, roughly 65 managers. It was kind of like it was a role where I learned a lot. It was honestly like getting an MBA. The time that I worked for her, it was crazy. So I was like, I was doing normal like EA stuff, but also you're kind of like a jack of all trades in that kind of role. But I was learning from, the board of directors, all the business people that sat on those boards. I was learning how to look at balance sheets for all the different business units. I was learning a ton. So I was actually in that kind of environment, accounting, business process improvement, all that kind of stuff, admin stuff. And then what came in 2020? COVID. COVID came. And I was honestly just like looking for remote work. So I was like, man, this is a unique time. I might as well like have that flexibility, and it'd be nice to be at home with my wife too and chilling, right? And kind of enjoying that space together.
Right.
So I thought, man, that'd be really cool. So I literally got on a job board and I was looking at a job board of 1,000 different roles. And there was one that stood out to me, and it was working for a guy named Dan Martell. And I was like, I don't know who this guy is. He's in a whole nother country, but I'm like, I could get with this, like the mission, the values. So I actually applied.
Yeah.
And I didn't apply to a sales role. I applied to an EA role. I applied to actually be his assistant. So
Wow. Okay.
it didn't work out that way. And that's how I ended up getting into sales, because they referred me to that role. They said, hey, kind of the income you're needing and requiring, it aligns better with a sales role. And so I said, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So I like literally stumbled into it, and they were
Yeah.
like, they recommended me, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. You know, I've never been in a sales role, and dude, that was a freaking eye opener, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So a lot of people know who Dan Martell is. Some people don't. Like, give a quick, 10 seconds. Like, what is he known for?
Dan, how do I put Dan into like a couple seconds? Honestly, like Dan is just a force of nature. Like he's a award-winning investor, angel investor. He invests. I mean, he has like 3 exits from software companies that he built. Kind of started off like troubled youth and had ADHD. Made his way out, and he made his way out through coding software. And built 3 companies, and he had started a company called SaaS Academy, and that kind of aligned with my background in terms of like training and always having a desire to communicate and coach and help people. So he started that company, and it's the #1 coaching company for software founders. We call them SaaS founders, software as a service, in the world.
Yeah.
And we have some of the brands that you would recognize, like everyday brands that we've coached through that company. And Dan was one of the first guys that taught me how to sell, and it was crazy. So, yep.
Right on. Dude, come on with that. Now I know he's the Buy Back Your Time book.
Yep.
I have it on ebook, and I've got it. I just recently got it on Audible, because I've at this moment I'm having better luck listening through books than I am reading. So I go in seasons. Like, am I going to read something actually, or am I just going to have to listen to it like a podcast or an audiobook?
Right.
But yeah, I need to dig into it. I know the concept, so I'm excited to kind of go through it and learn a little bit more. So let me ask you this: was Dan like your first mentor in the sales space?
Sort of, yeah. Yeah. I had a mentor before that in business.
Yeah.
Who he was an Armenian gentleman, actually, from Fresno. It's my hometown. And
Shout out
Fresno. He was the first one that taught me how to like really put together a personal budget, and kind of gave me some sales insights that I didn't even realize. But as far as actual sales mentor, yeah, Dan was the first one. And then I just started reading books, devouring everything I could, just to kind of keep up with other people who had been selling for a long time. And you know how the journey is, right? You got to catch up. So I just started devouring everything I could find. I had listened to all his sales calls. I, role played, and the sales director at the time, he gave me a shot. So it's funny story. I went through a test project. So you have to test in. And it was me and my buddy Alex. And Alex was coming from a coaching background. Okay. So me and Alex go through this test project. It's like 4 weeks. Dude, I didn't sell anything. Like, I was taking demos, I was ripping demos. I didn't sell anything. Alex sold 4 deals. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to make it. There's no way. And the sales director was like, you know what, dude? Even though you haven't sold any deals, like, I still believe in you. And I think, like, you deserve a shot. And I was like, wow, like, okay. So he hired me. That first 30 days, I sold 6 deals. And I never looked back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, come on with that. That's a great recovery.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From no deals to 6 deals? Yeah.
So I probably spent, all in all, probably rocked like 2,000 demos with founders, entrepreneurs, people who run companies anywhere from, they're just starting out pre-revenue, right, all the way to companies that are doing over 50 million a year, and selling to the founders, the C-suite, you name it.
Yeah. Decision maker central, right?
Very
there.
good.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Was there like a shift in your mindset or your strategy that took you from 0 deals to 6 deals? Was it like the positive influence of this guy just said, hey, you didn't do any deals for the first 4 weeks, but I know you can do this. I believe in you. Was that part of a mind shift, or was there like a different, like what strategy got you from 0 to 6 in 30 days?
I don't think it was a strategy. Honestly, I don't think that you can,
Okay.
it's just like, do you want it? And what I had to shift was my identity on the call and who I was,
Okay.
how I was showing up, right? You ever have this situation where you're like, I have a problem in front of me, and you don't actually need any other tools or skills or anybody else to help you solve it. You just actually have to like dig in and get it done. And that's all it was. That's all it was. It's like, I don't have a choice. So I had to shift the identity, and I showed up 100% different on those calls. Yeah.
Nice.
Show up to win.
It's kind of like fake it till you make it kind of thing.
That's it. 100%. Fake it till you make it, man. And I literally was slinging deals, slinging $10,000, $30,000 deals from my living room, and just believing that I could.
Right on.
That reminds me of, did you guys ever watch Boiler Room movie back in the day?
For sure.
Yeah.
That what's the main thing is like, act as if you can be anybody you want to be on the phone, because nobody has any idea, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's been sometimes like early on in business when I had to, I've been sales related stuff like almost forever, right? Minus the years I was lifeguarding.
What? That's where that tan comes
sales
from.
involved there. I know, bro. I still think that was one of the best ROIs I have ever had. I made. Look, this is 1997. I was making $17.50 an hour to lifeguard, manage 2 pools. One pool, the one I set myself up at every day, no one ever came all summer.
Wow.
Because all the kids in the neighborhood, like all the houses, they had their own pool. Nobody came to the public pool. So it was like, I literally just brought an acoustic guitar and like would play guitar and just freaking chill out all day, making $17.50 in 1997.
Dude, what was the minimum wage?
It was like the best job ever.
What was the minimum wage at that time?
Like, it's like $6.
$6.25 or something like that. Yeah.
You were doing like 3 times the minimum wage.
Come on.
That's sick.
Yeah, I don't know if the company was just like mad desperate or like what, but it worked for me. It afforded me. I dropped way too much money on my car stereo after that summer.
Dude, he had the Polk audios in the trunk.
Like $1,700 on my system. Chrome plated 6x9s.
Was it
Come on,
Kenwoods or what?
Okay, so I had 2 Kenwoods in a bandpass box in the trunk, and then I had DHD 6x9s and DHD, like the components in the door, right? So you got a little tweeter up top on the door. Then you had the mid range, and then the full. Yeah. So I had the JVC Chameleon head unit. So it was the one that was like basically just looked completely black until you turned it on, and then it lit up. And then when you wanted to put a CD in, you hit the button and it slid down.
That's right.
The CD
That's sick, dude. So
it's like
you were bumping then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was unnecessarily loud, but that's what your teenagers are about. You know what I mean?
Right. Going deaf.
And bro, here's the thing. Like I put all that in a, what year was it? It had to have been like a 93. Yeah. It was a 93 Honda Accord Coupe, and it was a standard. It was a little 5-speed. Come on. How many people were whipping around a Honda Accord Coupe? No one? I guarantee you no one.
Right on.
But those were the days, though. But
cool,
it's kind of wrap it all back. It reminds me of that act as if thing is like, I was doing the sales job several years back. I was working for CompUSA, which I don't even think exists except for maybe online these days. And I did floor sales half the day, and the second half of the day we had to make phone calls like crazy, right? We had to do like something like 100, 120 calls a day kind of thing. And it was for the small business, vertical. And so when I'm making these calls and like it was looking back on it now, it was like a learning experience, but also just like, why would CompUSA try to sell printer paper and all this other stuff? Like you You need to just be selling tech. You know what I mean? Like, but we're like, no, you got to throw in the printer paper. You got to do the cartridges. You got to do the, like ask them if they need, bike locks. It's just like dumb stuff. We were
And you
just
kind
trying
of
to throw in the
upsell.
mix. And so, dude, literally any upsell. And then after learning that they went bankrupt, it was like, that's why you were trying to literally sell anything, is because you just needed cash.
Yeah.
But like on those calls, like initially I was like, kind of not like, embarrassed is not the right word, but just like a little timid. You know what I mean? I'm calling these companies that I know are doing, large amounts in their own right, in the Houston area. They're like chemical companies and like real estate companies and oil companies. You know what I'm saying? Like all these people, and I'm calling up and like I'm just this like 22-year-old dude working at CompUSA trying to sell Apple computers off the floor and then make this paper on the phone. And I remember I had rewatched Boiler Room, and they were talking about the act as if you could be anyone you want on the phone, because I don't know you from Adam. You know what I mean? And so like I remember like legit doing that. I'd be like, I'm gonna act like I'm the sales director at CompUSA, bro. I'll make any deal I want to. I don't have to put you on hold, talk to my boss. And so I don't know if it made that big of a difference, but there's a shift in your head. You know what I mean? It goes like to like I can actually do this. But I to this day though, like, bro, cold calling is like, I know it works, but it is the devil. I'm like, I'm just like, because I know every time somebody cold calls me, I'm like, I don't got time for you, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I know that's rude, whatever.
But are there people that make it
I just
through?
don't have it. So I feel like everybody feels that.
Are there
way.
people that make it through though too?
No.
Right.
I feel like there's never anyone who I'm like, you know what, actually, let me give you 2-3 minutes of my time. I mean, and honestly, I think it comes down to, I don't think they've qualified me well before they even picked up the phone. I think that's what it was. Like I get the most recent, okay, I have to take that back. About a month and a half ago, I did take the call because it came through on the, office line, and I was like, I picked it up. And it was this girl who was asking, hey, she was selling VoIP services and, office internet stuff. And I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to save you a lot of time. We're remote, right? So we don't have, our office phone. We use open phone. It goes to, it's all on an app and everything. We don't have to worry about nothing. So she's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess have a nice day then. And I was like, yeah, you too. Like, but she, I mean, we had the conversation, maybe because I just felt chipper that day. I don't know. But it was like, I'm sure there's a way to qualify whether or not we have a physical office. I mean, we don't say that we do. I mean, we have a P.O. box or whatever. But like, you know what I mean? I don't know. And then it's like, am I I get people like email me all the time, right? LinkedIn is notorious about this. Like, I'll get messages from LinkedIn people all the time. Hey, they want to connect. And then the very next thing is like a pitch. And I'm like, please stop. Like, don't pitch me. Just let's connect and let's maybe have a conversation first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't just cold pitch me right off of LinkedIn. Like, yeah, I don't know. I could be super jaded though as a marketer. Like, you know what I mean? I probably am.
You might have some of that.
It's probably all me. It's my fault.
Just own it.
I'm just, Okay, so I do have another question for you though. What, in your opinion, what separates the average rep from a great one? That's a funny question. Too, I'm just saying.
What separates the average rep from? Well, how about this? How about I won't reinvent the wheel? I'm not going to make up my own answer, but I'll tell this to you from what I heard it from a rep who helped a company go from like their first $500,000 a year to over $100 million a year as a software company. And this is how he put it.
Okay.
In all the years of selling and listening to thousands of hours of sales calls and being with reps, training, hiring, firing, all that stuff, the biggest thing that separates the amateurs from the pros is one thing. And the one thing might not be what you'd think it would be, but that one thing is the speed. I mean, because what? All those conversion rates, tonality, charisma, right? Just technical product knowledge. Those are all important. Yeah, for sure. They all have a place.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they could observe with the top reps was the speed at which they took a new learning, a new concept, and something, an edge, an objection handle, whatever it was, and they took that into implementation. They literally made it their own. So they grabbed something out from a different rep, from a call review, from somebody else, another entrepreneur that had been selling. They took it, made it their own, and implemented it right away. So the speed to implementation is literally what makes the difference for the top reps. And I see that right now on the team that I lead.
That's not what I thought it was going to be.
No, I see it right now on the team that I lead. I see the reps that will have a role play in the morning, or I'll do a training, whatever it is, I'm coaching on a topic, and then boom, they send me a call within 2 hours, 3 hours. They send me a call, and I go to listen to it. This just happened today. I go to listen to it. It sounds exactly like what we role played in the morning. It sounds exactly like what we trained on. And I'm like, dude. And they're producing at the top level. So, yeah.
Come on.
Cool. So yeah, it sounds like winning's an attitude. You kind of have to break away from the identity you think you are before you get into sales, and just kind of like learn from others. And then, like you said, grab different things out of the air and then implement them quickly. Don't be afraid to like do, instead of like retract in and like kind of feed that fear you have. Just kind of step out and start implementing different skills you hear around you. That's good.
That's it, man. The quicker that you adapt and you learn, and it's almost kind of like a laser guided missile. Like it's always off course.
Good timing. Good timing.
Good timing? Yes. Good timing.
Very relevant.
You got to drop the bombs on the prospect, right?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna get fired from the show from that one.
Before this. This is great.
But yeah, man, like literally, like the laser guided missile is always off course, but it always course corrects. That's how it works. So that's literally the best reps are going to do that. They're going to course correct constantly.
Nice.
I love it. Well, okay, so
I got one question. So while we're on kind of education kick, in sales, what would you say the top 3 must-do principles are in sales? I guess we've already covered maybe one, implementation.
Yeah. Well, I would say number 1, you got to prospect. So what's prospecting, right? Like you have to look and cultivate new business all the time, because anybody can just take leads that are pre-nurtured and kind of indoctrinated with like what you do and why you're great and all this stuff. And they're like, oh yeah, we're raving fans. Anybody can take a percentage of those and turn those into revenue. Like I could train my niece to come in and do that. Right. But what isn't as common is somebody that goes out, finds somebody that had no idea who you were, and then builds a relationship and trust to the point where they turn that into dollars. That is a unique thing, and the best salespeople do that. So number 1, they prospect for new business. Number 2, they manage their time and pipeline. So like they have a pipeline, they run deals through that pipeline, right? From engaged to close won, close lost. So they're going to manage that like it's their baby. Like they're going to take care of that, right? And really have a close eye on like what is going on in their pipeline. So they have a close eye on it. And then number 3, I would say they manage their mind. Like they really look at their mind like a garden, and they're going to pull the weeds. So any negativity that comes in, think about everything you mentioned, the news. Think about everything that's going on in the news, right? All it takes is one piece of data from the news, from their crazy cousin, from whoever it is. One piece of data can literally throw them off. So they have to really manage their mental state and make sure that they're sharp and that they're on point and that they're sold on them, that they're sold on the product, that they're sold on a positive attitude. Like that, those 3 things, honestly, those are important.
Cool.
Right on.
That's why I don't watch the news.
Yeah, there you go.
Right there.
Yeah, too much negativity.
Yeah, man.
Plus, it's all fake anyway. What? Anyway, it's clickbait. Anyway,
Right.
so all right, cool. So let's do this. I want to kind of talk about. I want to go into like leading teams and building culture, and then, like this is a space you're familiar with. I've led and built teams, but not necessarily in a sales role. In different roles, throughout when I was in full-time ministry, but then also like in companies and in the company we're running now. And so like for you, like, what do you think makes a great sales leader? It's not somebody who just hits the numbers, right? It's got to be somebody that people will follow, but like what makes up the character of a great sales leader?
A great sales leader is they're going to have the answers. Like they're going to be able to guide and course correct and bring the strategy and really tap on their experience. They're going to provide like undoubted, like unrivaled coaching support. Like, oh, this is an area where you're struggling. Boom, here's the resource. Like, let me support you, coach you, give you the skills, right?
Gotcha.
But they're also going to hold a standard. Because what's the head of sales responsible for? What's the sales director, the sales leader, the sales manager? What are they responsible for? They're responsible for a number, right? So they roll up into an objective in the business, and it's usually dollar related, and money talks. So they have to have a team that is literally pulling their weight, or else things start to break. It doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So
great sales leader needs to also be a great
gotta be
coach.
a great coach, man. If you can't coach, you can't lead.
You gotta be.
If you can't coach, you can't lead, man. Think about it.
Yeah.
It's not just like it.
Yeah, you kind of
Very
really,
true.
Yeah.
Very true.
You got to build a culture. Good leader will build a culture, and that culture will build your team.
Culture is built. There's a lot of different like definitions for culture. Culture is built in the way that the team communicates when shit is going wrong.
Yeah.
So when stuff's going wrong, how are they communicating? That's culture. That's culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Or what? One thing that kind of comes to mind is when I was in another capacity, and the leader was the objectives were clear, right? We were given, hey, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to do it, whatever. But like, if you made a mistake, right, which everybody's going to do,
right.
but if you made a mistake, the culture was that you did everything in your like ability to not ever say anything or bring it up, because you knew that you were just going to get like berated, but not like there was no solution. It was just, you were just going to get yelled at and you're a loser, versus like, okay, listen, everybody makes mistakes. Let's figure out why it was made and how to not do it again, and like coach up, and like you were just saying, you got to be a great coach so you can coach somebody up. Mistakes are inevitable. Everybody's going to make them, no matter what your role is, no matter how long you've been doing it. There's going to be a mistake. So it's like, how do you handle it, right? And so I think that leads actually perfectly into my next question, which is like, what's one mistake you've made in leadership, and what did it teach you?
One mistake that,
and we've only got time for one.
Yeah.
So don't come up with like
Dude,
15, 20.
Where's my binder, man? I got my binder, 3-ring binder.
Right.
I think a mistake that I made is not understanding the effort required. Like pure and simple. So like you can come in to an opportunity, a role, and I was on a senior leadership team for a sales company, for a company, and it was in a sales capacity. And I came into that role, did a lot of really good stuff. At the same time, at the start, I didn't realize how much effort and intensity would actually be required in that role. And I underestimated that. And I think that's a big mistake that can be made, especially in sales. You have to be all in if you're going to drive the ship, you know what I mean? If you're going to drive revenue for a company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. All right, I'm gonna widen this up. Anthony, what's a mistake you've made in leadership, and what'd you learn from it?
Um, one of the things I learned, man, was I thought it wasn't important to get involved on the personal level with those who you lead, especially in the corporate environment. Now I've learned, like in entrepreneurship, the relationship comes first, because if you don't meet people where they're at and kind of develop a personal relationship with them, you really have trouble leading them, because there's that level of trust. And I had a mentor tell me, listen, if your employees or the people that you work with aren't coming to you at a personal level about some of their personal problems, then you're not leading
Mhm.
well enough. So I learned to like put the
That's
relationship
good.
first and kind of develop
Mm,
that good relationship with those, and build that kind of like friendly culture with them, and let them feel comfortable of coming to me with whatever it is they want to come
That's
to me
really
with.
good. A lot of people are afraid to get
yeah,
too close
Yeah.
to their team, you know?
Mhm.
yeah. Well, it's that's a. I think that's something all of us as leaders, when we step into a leadership role of any kind, our initial thought is like, well, I can't be friends with you. I can't talk to you on this level. I have to separate
Yeah.
myself. And
Right.
I know, I made the same mistake a long time ago in leadership. And I think what caused me to see it was, so I had, and this is interesting because it's not corporate story. It's in a ministry setting, but like, so I had a leader that I was working under at a church, and prior to me being hired, like, and actually paid to do what I did at the church, I was just like buds with the guy who was my boss, right? And then when I got hired, it got weird. It was
Right.
like, well, now we don't
Yeah.
hang out anymore, and your wife doesn't talk to my wife anymore, and I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it just like, what
Yeah.
happened,
Yeah.
Um, and I think it was like, because he was always taught that anybody that works for you or is part of your team, subordinate, whatever you want to call it, right, is like, you got to have that gap, and if you don't, it can get messy. And I totally get that part too, because I've
Right.
been on both sides. I've put a gap in there, and then I've
Yeah.
also been too close, and it got a little too messy. And you're just like, is there no perfect place?
For sure.
There really isn't.
But
But
I get the concept though.
you know what
Like
I mean?
you
Like,
don't want to be the whole concept. Like you don't want to be liked. You want to be trusted, right? Like you don't want to get
yeah, or
yeah,
respected,
respected.
or
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that was what was drilled in, like in my early leadership development years. I went through a leadership development program that was like a combination of like every John C. Maxwell book that
Yep.
he's ever written, slash like, Patrick Lencioni and some stuff like that, right? So like great leadership, like development
Yeah.
content, right? Um, and I think just the culture that I was around at the time really heavily leaned into that
Mm.
separation piece. And then when I left that church and went to a different one and was hired on for a different role, and the senior pastor was my direct, leader. His style of leading was much more like Anthony was talking about, like, hey, like, yeah, I'm leading and I've got to make these executive calls and do this and that and the other thing, but like, I need you to feel like you can trust me enough to, like, if something happens, you're going to come to me and say something, and we're
Sure.
going to work out a solution together, versus you're going to hide this problem until it becomes an even worse problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I feel like I learned the most leadership lessons I've ever learned was from, shout out to Dan
Oh, well.
Osborne. He was I know, right? Dan, if you ever see this, I had an absolute fantastic time working for you. I learned a ton of things in a short amount of time, and am forever grateful.
Oh,
Um,
Dan.
Dan was, I know, right? Something about guys with the name Dan being good leaders. Guess I'm screwed. My name's Scott. Anyway,
That's that big Dan energy.
but like, I learned from him, like, okay, you can actually be like connected in a way, right? I mean, we weren't going and hanging out on the weekend, you know what I mean? It wasn't like that, but like, it was a comfortable enough, familiar enough relationship where like there wasn't a goofy
Right.
barrier, and it did allow him. He did coach up really well, like he really did. And it's
Mhm.
interesting. this happens a lot in the church world, but a lot of crossover, guys that maybe they were in the marketplace, right? And they were leading companies and doing things. And then God put a call in their life to go into ministry, and then they switch over. And it's a very common thing that happens. Right. And interestingly enough, the switch back, like I switched out of full-time ministry into business world, and so there's a lot of that goes on too. I think
it's the monk and the merchant, man. It's always a balance. Got the monk and the merchant.
Come on. It is a balance. Yeah. I think being able to coach somebody and care about them beyond whatever they can do for you is, I think, if I'm going to ask that same question to myself, it would be one of the lessons I learned was don't just care about the result that they're supposed to do, like the thing that they're supposed to do for you or the company or whatever. Like, care about them as a person, and then that will enable them to do their job well enough to deliver the results. And if they can't, then obviously you got to figure out that exit path. But like, for the most part, I've not been really let down when I've invested in the person instead of just expecting the result.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. You're not that dictator kind of expecting just a result out of a person. You want to,
Yeah.
You set that tone where, and in my experience, people perform better when, you get close to them and you let them know that, hey man, I've got your back and we're a team.
Man, that is so huge, man. Yeah, that's definitely, like, I was thinking about all the mistakes I made, dude. Like, I think like blaming instead of owning the outcome is definitely a mistake that I made in leadership. Like, no question. Like, I put the blame like, oh, but like, look at this, look at that. I'm like, dude, instead of just, it's me. I own it. It's my responsibility, right? Dude, absolute mistake.
Dude. Yeah. And isn't it actually so much easier too when you finally just go, you know what? Like, buck stops with me. It's not even your fault. This is my fault. I didn't equip you right. Or this is my fault. I didn't see this. And strategically, I just set us up for failure. My bad. You know what I mean? It's so much easier to just take the responsibility. You know what I mean? And that's leadership, is responsibility. You know what I mean? It's responsibility and influence. That's what leadership is, And I think young leaders often, that's the mistake they make. Young leaders don't take full responsibility immediately. They look for everywhere else to put the responsibility. Like,
especially
this guy didn't do his job.
Wasn't earned.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
So like, okay, I'm gonna kind of shift over to like, let's have some like real talk, real advice for the climb is what I would call this, right? What would you tell young Kris stepping into your first sales job? What would be the one nugget that you would tell them right now?
I would say consume faster. Like, just like iterate faster, consume faster, move faster, because it's not like a function of, it's not a function of, you're going to get there. Like, you're going to acquire the skills, but the speed at which you do it is 100% in your control. So I would 100% tell them, like, dude, instead of reading X books, instead of reading 10 books, read 100 books. Like, I was the only one putting a limit on me. So that's what I would tell the newest rep. Consume more, actually. Change more, iterate more. And faster. Faster. Yeah.
In a lot of areas, not just in sales, there are a lot of areas in sales where speed is king, right? How fast can you get the proposal turned around? How fast can you,
get the lead? Yes. Need to lead.
All these things. Speed is key. Yeah. Like, speed is king, right? So, all right. So a lot of people listening might be thinking about like a career in sales, or maybe they're in sales and they're like, maybe they're struggling a little bit with, like, I know this is a thing, burnout.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Especially when you're new and you feel like you got to prove your own worth. You gotta sell to make your boss happy. You got to sell. Sometimes in these sales positions, it's like 100% commission or a minimal base plus commission. So if you don't sell, you're not eating.
That's it.
You know what I mean? And if you got young families, or, you know what I mean? So like, but burnout is a real thing. and I mean, dude, in my entrepreneurial journey, I didn't know if you said that right. I swear this is coffee. My
Coffee, it's
entrepreneurial
coffee.
journey. Yeah, it's coffee. We're filming this after 5. It's all right. Um, the the amount of times I've been burned out in
Mhm.
my job, right, is probably it's probably 10. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
honestly. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with because there's a hustle culture
Yeah,
that's been kind of
that's right.
cultivated over the last, let's call it 10 years, you
Mhm.
know, of like just hustle and grind, hustle and grind, hustle and grind, like no sleep till die, you
Right.
know what I mean? Like all this kind of stuff. And I feel like honestly now looking back at it, um, I feel like it's a lie. I feel like it's
Yeah.
100% the wrong way to
Mhm.
go at it.
Hmm.
So I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts on that. Like with burnout, people in there, just starting in the career, or maybe you're, just starting a new business, or you just doing this thing, you're just like nose to the grindstone, no holidays, no vacations, no weekends, working from 7 a.m. to midnight every single day. Like you're not going to make it. Like
Right.
legitimately,
Mhm.
your body will fail probably before your mind does. But like,
Yeah.
What's your
you know what I mean?
experience, Anthony?
I think
Like so,
those who focused on the scoreboard, if you will, are focused on burnout because they think the harder I work or the later I stay up, the more I do, the better my scoreboard will reflect my actions. But that's not true at all. You can't burn yourself out because you won't perform well. You've got to take care of home first, and then you can go out and execute and implement those things that you need to do to be successful, man. Often when I get burnt out on something, I kind of refer back to of my why. Why did I get involved in this in the first place? And what about this is what am I enjoying about this? Why am I here? And then I
That's
kind
it.
of leave and go reflect on that, and give myself some time to kind of recap or recoup, even if it's 24 hours. Like just with fixed coffee. I'm constantly trying to crank out some content for ads and videos. And today, I finished 2 videos. And I was like, you know what? Feeling a little burnt out. I'm going to go do something else, and I was going to play with my daughter.
Yep.
And we hung out. And then now here doing this, so tomorrow I'll be refreshed, man, and I'll bounce back into the bounce back into the production game. But yeah, you just got to change it up. It's people talk about a life work balance, but it's not. It's a work life integration, and that's way
Hmm.
different than a balance. It's not fifty
Man, that's
fifty. It's
good.
it's integrating your life into the
Yeah,
work you
that's
do.
good.
So yeah,
Um, I agree 100%. And what you said right there, what I pulled out is something that I really resonate with, and it's about the why. Because I think that you can work
mhm,
80 hours a week, 100 hours a week. And when the why is defined for you, like when it's something that you have it's in alignment with who you are, with what you're passionate about, an overarching purpose, a
mhm.
goal, right, etc. I can give examples. You can work 80 to 100 hours a week and it will feel literally like play. You mentioned John Maxwell earlier. He talks about
Yeah,
like a work of frolic. There's a workaholic, but there's also a work of frolic.
yeah,
And when you
yeah,
have your purpose like crystal clear in your mind, dude, it I don't know, like there's times and I actually feel like that right now. I don't know where it's the integration. I don't know where work stops and where the place starts. It's kind of hard to find it. It all feels like just one. And I've been feeling that for quite a while. So I think like if you got the right why, so if you're dealing with burnout in sales, it's very easy, right? Win rates drop, conversions drop,
hmm
market issues. Dude, what else? Like all cash flow crunches. Oh my God, we're in a cash flow crunch. We're selling some deals,
right,
like call the leads, right? All this stuff. Dude, as
yeah,
long as you can remember like your why, your purpose, like the overarching mission, you will not burn out.
mhm,
Now, there is something to
mm,
be said about rest though.
yeah,
Okay. If you're not taking
yeah,
rest, if you, I mean, if you guys have a faith element, right? You got to think about that. But like, there is a
Yep.
design for us, and that design does include rest. Doesn't mean there's not seasons of your
Yeah.
life where like you should be working and, hitting it. You should hit it, right? Let's go. But you do
Yeah.
have to have rest built in if you're gonna if you're gonna work optimally, if you're as a human being, if you're gonna function properly, you gotta build in that rest and play.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
on.
That's true. I think both of those are actually super solid. I think, having dealt with it multiple times, I think some of it was, we'll be a little transparent on this piece. So like, I got married at 21 years old the first time, which me just saying the first time leads you into where I'm going. I was working 3 jobs for like, I would, it's just ridiculous. 3 jobs. And now, whatever the case is, maybe I was like, did you go to college and get a degree and start working at a degree? No, I didn't. Absolutely didn't. And I graduated, barely got out of high school because social activities were way more important to me than academic ones.
Right.
And took summer school every year just to get out of school and stay with my friends. Right. And then I got out of high school and I was like, well, I'm gonna go to do this like church internship thing. So I did the church internship thing. And I was like, well, I'm going to do audio school. So I went into audio engineering school for a semester, and I went to business school 3 times. I have not finished. I'm not currently going. I won't go back, but I've been working in it long enough. I got my executive MBA just by doing
the work.
all of the wrong things. But like, yeah, exactly. But like, burnout definitely was a factor in that hustle culture, and that whole thing was a factor in, not the complete factor, but a factor in why my first marriage didn't work out. I was never home.
Sure.
I was always out doing something. I was working this job, and then I'd leave that one and I'd go to this one, and then I'd leave that one and go do this. And it was like constantly gone, constantly working. There was no time spent nurturing a relationship whatsoever. And then, it was enough time to nurture a relationship to have 3 kids, but like,
There was some nurturing going
it
on.
just wasn't, there was a little nurturing. But like, it's a fact. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of, folks who are like grinding it out in their first business or whatever, they feel like it's a necessity to just never be, like, it's a badge of honor to just be so busy all the time. And I could not like be more against that after walking out my own personal experiences. And, I've got other friends that walk out similar scenarios where they just thought that was what you're supposed to do. And it ends up that really crushes your home.
What do you think?
Yeah. You hear corporate people say that. You ask them like, "Hey man, how you doing?" "Oh man, staying busy." Well, I'm trying not to.
I'm trying to like just retire. You know what I mean?
What do you think's like the underlying reason for that belief, like the hustle, the grind, like the grind it out?
Personally, I think I can speak to 2 things. Yeah, I think it's 2 things. I think one, for a lot of guys who start their own business, we do so because we don't work well underneath somebody else's leadership. Just call a spade a spade. Was terrible with authority up until a certain age, right? I was always like, I'm doing my own thing. I don't care what you say, blah, blah, blah. Punk rock culture, still alive and breathing in me. And I think a lot of guys do that. We start our businesses because we want to do it our way. We want to do things how we want to do it. But then at the same time, we didn't understand all of the puzzle pieces that go into making that happen. And so then we have to wear all the hats. We've got to do all the things, and every ounce of every deliverable is on our shoulder, right? And then it becomes so there's that, right? And then it's encouraged because a lot of the stuff in the world, like Gary Vee and everybody, you know what I mean? No hate on Gary Vee, but like he's the kind of been the one that's hustle, hustle, hustle. You know what I mean? Like, I can remember when I first got turned on to listen to him, and I was like, okay, I get this, I get this. And then I was like, man, this is not working out so well. And then again, no shade intended, but like, that dude's been divorced now, and his family didn't work out. So his businesses were great, but his family life sucked.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, I don't want that. I don't want my business to be great, but my family life sucked. You know what I mean? With the absolute, I want them both to thrive. But like, I think it's also a badge of honor because of that culture that's been, you know what I mean? Like, oh man, I worked 75 hours in 3 days. Well, you're an idiot.
Right.
Don't do
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? Like, dude, it's
I mean,
just like, don't do
that's the
that.
exact, like what you're talking about right now. That's the exact thing that we try every day to combat at Scalable is,
Oh yeah.
founders are wearing, we have this concept like 11 hats, but most of them are wearing at least 5, you got, the budget hat, the marketing
Sure.
hat, the
Yeah.
sales hat, the customer success and product hat. Like they're just taking it all on. Right. And not to mention,
Yeah.
you might have a founder and they don't even have an assistant. And it's like, dude, probably need to look at that
Yeah.
because they're kind of burning
Yeah.
themselves out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have had conversations about that because there's been times where I'm like, dude, I've got all this stuff is sitting on my shoulders because, COVID happened and things with the
Yeah.
agency shifted. And then we used to have 8 full-time staff and then it was down to 2, you know what I mean? So it was like, okay, and I'm not going anywhere. So
Yep.
I got to get this stuff done. You know what I mean? And I, and now we're in a spot where I've got my team again and I'm not responsible for 100% of what happens, which is great. I mean, I am, it's the fact that I'm
Moving in
making
the
it
right
happen,
direction.
but like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
yeah. And so, yeah, I think, dude, there's so much to be said in this topic of like, I think the other thing is everybody expects results
Right
like
away.
in, immediately. And I think that's another thing that's been sort of ingrained in just common business culture, internet business culture, let's put it that way, over the last few years is like, do you see these like 14-year-old kids and they're all like on TikTok talking about, I made $6 million this year, blah, blah, blah. Here's my Lambo. And you're just like, shut up. I didn't take a vacation in the last 5 years. You don't know what you're talking about.
That kid rented that Lambo.
Yeah. It's like the amount of times I've been bitter at some kid on the internet is unfortunately a lot of times.
Yeah,
So,
we've forgotten the practice of delayed gratification.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, dude, it just like there's a difference. I mean, you're in a company that you help people scale and get out, right? But so you understand there's a way to scale that's healthy and there's a way to scale that's not healthy. And I think if you're growing and you have your boundaries of time is blocked out and things are here so you can have healthy relationships and still have a good business, it's okay. If your goal is to get to 10 million in sales and you're at 4.5 right now, it's okay if it doesn't take you 8 months to get there. You know what I mean? I think understanding that there's a process to it and you don't have to compare yourself to anyone else or whatever anybody else's entrepreneurial journey looks like. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's not necessarily like don't get me wrong. I would love to see immediate financial success on every business that I'm involved in. That would be the ideal, right?
Right.
But I'm also well aware of like, I want to be around for my kids. I want to, be around for my wife. I want to hang out with friends, go do things. I want to have like a life that's not just here I am throwing out another proposal, another sales call. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like as much as I love the pitch. Like I love showing up in a room and just I love the pitch, bro. That's why I feel
I want to sell something right now, man.
It's so
I can
great.
tell.
Come on, let's sell you this pen. The classic, sell me this pen. But I don't know, dude. I think there's a lot in common culture, right? Just business culture and how it ties in. Sales is an integral part of business. If you don't have sales,
Talk about
you don't have
like,
business.
getting like immediate results. That's what you were saying. It's like getting like quick results. And when you're a sales leader, like more times than not, it's like you're coming in and it's like right the ship, like turn things around. So for sales leaders across the board, that is usually what. So you have to prepare for that, and be like, okay, well, folks want a change, management wants a change, the board, they want to see results fast. So specifically in a
Right.
sales
Yeah.
leadership role, you tend to have that theme of quick results and turn it around.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you feel like, okay, so with that being the case, right? Do you feel like it's a good idea for a sales leader to come in with a multi-part strategy
Yeah, dude.
versus like, yeah, I mean, because I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in corporate world sales. I've spent some time, but like the things what it sounds like happens, and you can correct me if I'm totally off on this, but it sounds like happens is, you know, sales manager turnover is probably mildly high. Expectations are high. In the marketing world, marketing agencies, we're a dime a dozen. Turnover can be high in there too. So it's like you come in and you're expected to turn a result in the fastest amount of time possible. But like I know from my experience working with our clients, I'm like, hey, listen, here's how we're going to get to the goal that you want to get to. This is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 versus like, yeah, let's just attack this, full on and try to go from 0 to 100. You know what I mean? Do you feel like strategy is an important part to bring to the table when you have been handed over the reins as
Yeah,
sales leader?
100%. Like I call it a 30, 60, 90, right? You got to have a plan for the first 30 days and what you're going to do with the team, what you're going to do with the reps, right? First 60 days, once you kind of got in, you had really the ability to kind of pop the hood, do the audit, right? Get an idea of like what's going on, listen to the calls, look at the pipeline, look at all that stuff. And then you can build a 60 and 90-day roadmap from there in terms of like what you're going to accomplish, right? So it's finding like low-hanging fruit in the first 30 days, pull those levers, right? It's going to be quick things. It's usually taking off more than it is like adding.
Mm.
So, and then,
Really?
yeah, it's because like sometimes like there's stuff being done that doesn't need to be done. And then if you can take that off of a team member's plate, then that's like a win-win. It's a win-win scenario. So sometimes that's taking stuff off in the first 30 days, and then you're kind of adding strategic stuff in the first 60, 90. So that's usually what I say.
Right on. I like it.
30, 60, 90.
90.
Money.
Come on. Is that the title of your first book?
Right.
Yeah.
It's the 30, 60,
Exactly.
90.
Fibonacci.
Your first 90 days to sales success. I love it. All right, so check it out. I think we've covered a lot of territory on this, and I think it's all been like really good.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I want to do it just for fun. We're gonna land this plane. We're gonna do some quick fire questions. All right. No time to
Okay.
think. You just gotta answer. All right. Here we go. Cold call or warm intro?
Warm intro.
Best advice you ever received?
Oh man. Do more. Do more.
Okay. What's a book or resource that every salesperson should read?
Dude, that's a loaded question. Wow. I would say there's like Old Testament and there's New Testament. And I'd say probably the Old Testament is like Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Understanding what to say by, I forget the guy's name. There's a couple, but for sure go with Chet Holmes. And then New Testament, probably got to read Justin Michael's stuff. So tech powered sales. And then he's got a new one called Call Algo, which is all about AI and sales.
Okay. Awesome. All right. If you weren't in a sales leadership position, what would
I'd be
you
a
be doing?
coach. I'd be coaching somebody. I found a passion for coaching, and it's just part of my nature. So I'd be a coach. I'd probably be coaching sales. If I wasn't in sales, I'd probably be coaching sales. I do coach sales,
Love
but I'd probably be coaching sales and or maybe coaching against something else that I've had to overcome.
Right on. All right.
Sweet.
And what's one thing that still excites you about the work that you do?
Dude, it's the outcome for the founder, the business owner, the sales rep, whatever. When I have worked hard to bring somebody into our world, they get the results from a program, from a system, whatever it is, or maybe it's a sales rep getting trained up, and then boom, they get the outcome, and we get the testimonial back. We get the win back from the team, and they've doubled their business. They've tripled their business. They exited their company. The sales team member doubled their income, whatever it is, dude. That's like what I live for. There's nothing better than that.
Right on.
Sweet. Yeah.
Awesome. Dude,
Yeah, this has
rock
been
and
so
roll.
cool, man.
Well, okay. So where can people where can people connect with you,
Dude,
follow you?
Kris
whatever,
Westcott,
you know?
KRIS on Instagram. Hit me up. I'm like religiously on LinkedIn too. Just Kris
Yeah, you
Westcott,
are.
man. Hit me up on LinkedIn. We'll connect. And yeah, those are the two best spots. But happy to take any emails too. But those are the two best spots to find me.
Right on.
Sweet.
Right on. Instagram and
Hit me up.
LinkedIn. Let's go. Dude, Kris, this has been awesome, dude. Thanks
thank
for
you.
hanging out. There's been so much. You've dropped like a lot of good wisdom bombs in this thing, and I think there's so much fire in here that.
Dude, well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me on. It's been
great stuff.
been good connecting with you guys, and I hope it blesses the audience. And yeah, man, love it. We should do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Will
Yeah,
do.
look forward to it, man. Well, Kris, nice to
Nice
meet
to
you,
meet
man.
you guys. Peace.